520 predictions, internet discussions. Almost at the same time, similar arguments were happening in the conference room of the Nobel Committee for Medicine and the conference room of the Nobel Committee for Physics. It was normal for such arguments to happen. As long as there were people, there would be selfish ones. They would more or less speak in a direction that was beneficial to them. Of course, there were also other conference rooms. At this moment, in the conference room of the Nobel Peace Committee, the current leader of the United States has only started a war once and is very peace-loving. Let's give him the Peace Prize. I agree. Agreed. Agreed. They all made their choices quickly. The old man sitting at the top nodded and said, "All right, let's make the final vote during the next voting session." Time flowed like water. The Nobel Prize voting was getting closer and closer. At the same time, at the earthquake center of Hua Nation, a round-faced staff member drank a cup of tea in satisfaction and hummed a few lyrics. When he put down his teacup, he accidentally saw the tall and thin staff member who was staring at the screen intently. He could not help but smile. "Yang Li, relax, there's no need to be so nervous." In the past, earthquakes were unpredictable, but it's different now. Now we have the earthquake prediction device invented by Professor Lin Fan. This is a divine artifact that can predict the tremors of the world in the next 5 days. Once an earthquake is coming, it'll send out an alarm. Moreover, it has the ability to predict 5 days in advance. As soon as he finished speaking, beep beep beep. Suddenly, a series of urgent alarms sounded in the empty earthquake center. The round-faced worker said, "Look, this is the earthquake detected." Obviously, similar situations often occurred. After all, the Earth's crust was constantly moving. However, most of the time, the magnitude of the earthquake was very low and would not cause too much of an impact. Therefore, the round-faced staff member did not panic too much. "Let me see where the earthquake is coming from." As he spoke, he held the thermos and slowly walked to the earthquake prediction device. In the next moment, the round-faced worker's thermos cup fell to the ground. He widened his eyes in shock. Nine's level 9. He had worked in the earthquake center for many years and knew very well what an earthquake of this magnitude meant. Then he hurriedly dialed his superior's number. If it was detected that an earthquake was about to occur in a certain area of Hua Nation, they had to evacuate the area in the shortest time possible. However, the earthquake forecast indicated that a magnitude 9 earthquake would occur in Bear Country. This required a meeting to discuss. After all, the magnitude 9 earthquake was too big. If an emergency evacuation was carried out, the manpower and material resources involved would be too extensive. What if the earthquake prediction device made a mistake? This would be a blow to their credibility and reputation. In the past 6 months, the earthquake prediction device predicted 18 earthquakes and all the predictions matched, the man wearing silver-rimmed glasses said. Even if all 18 earthquakes match, it's still very risky to directly inform Bear Country of the prediction results of the magnitude 9 earthquake. If there's a mistake, our relationship with Bear Country will be affected, the man in the white shirt said. If we don't tell the Bear Country, won't our relationship with Bear Country be affected? Someone quickly retorted. The main thing is that Bear Country's area is not in the earthquake zone. Normally, there won't be a major earthquake, let alone a magnitude 9 earthquake. Could it be a machine malfunction? The man in the white shirt said. I think we should still be careful, someone said. The old professor sitting in the main seat listened to everyone's argument and could not help but frown. After a while he asked, "Have you asked Professor Lin Fan?" Professor Lin Fan said that the earthquake prediction device won't make a mistake, the man with silver-rimmed glasses said. On Weibo Earthquake Center, according to the earthquake prediction device, a magnitude 9.1 earthquake will occur in Bear Country's Wuka City at 9:00 on June 20th. Please be careful. Every once in a while, the earthquake center would issue an earthquake forecast. It often attracted the attention of some people. Now there were more people in the comment section. Junjai Zien, am I seeing things? A 9.1 magnitude earthquake. Fat monkey, isn't this too scary? Luminous bottle, our country hasn't had such a big earthquake in nearly 100 years. Hua travel northwest. I have a relative who seems to be studying in Bear Country. I have to ask him to come back. Lin Pei, a 9.1 magnitude earthquake will occur in Wuka City. That should be impossible, right? Stone Golem, impossible. Then you have to see who posted the news. It's the Earthquake Center. The earthquake prediction device was invented by Professor Lin Fan. Awesome. 5 days later, a magnitude 9.1 earthquake will happen. Even though it's Bear Country, I still hope that they can safely pass through this disaster. After Hua Nation's Earthquake Center sent out the news, other media outlets also reposted and reported on it. BCD Daily, Hua Nation's Earthquake Center has predicted that a magnitude 9.1 earthquake will occur in Wuka City in 5 days. WW, how dare you publish such news? Aren't you afraid of conflict? JJCK, don't they have any brains? Don't they know that Wuka City isn't in the earthquake zone? If you had said it was Gus City, then I might have chosen to believe you. Make, in the past, I thought that China's earthquake prediction ability had reached the world's advanced level. Now it seems that I came to that conclusion too early. JJJ, this earthquake prediction device was invented by Professor Lin Fan, right? His reputation will soon be completely ruined. Sakura News, Hua Nation's Earthquake Center has predicted that a magnitude 9.1 earthquake will occur in Wuka City in 5 days. Mumingjun, I'm dying of laughter. They actually said that there'll be a magnitude 9.1 earthquake in Bear Country's Wuka City. Does Hua Nation not have any common sense? Matsumoto, who's a fool to believe that? Wind Demon, if there's no earthquake in Bear Country in 5 days, I'll see what Hua Nation will say. 1. I think they'll say that there was an operation error or that a temporary worker accidentally moved something, or they could bow to Bear Country and apologize. Yame's father, the person above, is making it sound as if Bear Country would believe it. Coquettish sister, I can't say for sure. After all, the relationship between the two countries is not bad, of course. That might not be the case in the future. Bear Country. Wuka City isn't even in an earthquake zone. No earthquakes will happen, let alone a magnitude 9.1 earthquake. 9.1 magnitude earthquake, is this a joke? There are times when machines fail, we don't have to pay too much attention to it. 9.1 magnitude earthquake, wouldn't that mean that all of the 10 million people in Wuka City would have to move away? How much trouble would that bring? He must be joking. We can't move. We should send an earthquake expert to Wuka City to do some research. That's right. At this moment, the man with a buzz cut who had been sitting in the main seat and had not spoken all this while finally opened his mouth. Quiet down. His voice was not loud. However, the entire meeting room immediately fell silent. Obviously, he had great prestige. The man continued, 5 days. What if a 9.1 magnitude earthquake really happens in 5 days? Who will be responsible? Everyone in the meeting room opened their mouths, but no one could say anything. Who would be responsible? Who dared to take responsibility? After all, this matter was too big. If it was true, how big of a disaster would it be? Even if they died, they would not be able to bear the consequences. They would become a sinner who would be cursed by countless people. Pass down the message, the man with the buzz cut said. Make sure that Wuka City is completely evacuated within 5 days at all costs. Also, make preparations to evacuate Hasi City, Mariku City, and Dengsha City, which are closer to Wuka City. Not only did they have to evacuate Wuka City, but they also had to evacuate the other 3 cities. In one breath, they had to evacuate 4 cities. This definitely took great courage. Yes, everyone's hearts turned solemn as they replied in unison. It had to be said that Bear Country's execution was not bad. Soon, a large number of people arrived at Wuka City. When some people who did not pay attention to the internet heard that an earthquake was about to happen, they were completely at a loss. There were also many people who, like those on the internet, expressed their disbelief that a magnitude 9.1 earthquake would occur and refused to leave. There were also some people who were unwilling to leave their homes. These were undoubtedly a hindrance to the operation. However, what Bear Country was best at was overcoming obstacles. They did not care if the residents were at a loss, or if they did not believe them, or if they were unwilling to leave. The officers stuffed everyone into buses, trucks, planes, and other means of transportation before transporting them out of Wuka City. These things were filmed by some people and posted online. Mi Sifeng, the first day in Wuka City upon receiving the news. In the past, I never believed that the Easterners knew magic, but today I believe it. The Easterners said that Wuka City is about to experience a 9.1 magnitude earthquake. Our Bear Country believed it. The pursuit of justice while disregarding scientific theories and violently destroying beautiful families one after another. Cries and shouts ripple on the streets. My friend told me that some of those who refused even died in accidents. Their corpses could even fill up several houses. Photo JPG, I think you should take a look at. Bear Country, please wake up. Some people quickly had an idea after seeing the post and carried out intentional publicity. Not long after, this post actually appeared in the headlines of major news around the world. This immediately caused countless people to discuss it. When Mi Sifeng saw this, he was so happy that he could not control himself. Therefore, he wrote more posts. Bear Country did not care about any of this. This was because they had already put all their energy into moving the residents of Wuka City, Hasi City, Mariku City, Dengsha City, and other cities. Bear Country was not bothered about it, and Lin Fan did not even think about it. As usual, he drove the Cullinan to Jiangbei University. At this moment, Hao Jiwu and Nai Junjiang were discussing intensely. Will there really be a 9.1 magnitude earthquake in Bear Country's Wuka City? Nai Junjiang was a little confused. Whether it happens or not, the earthquake prediction device is an amazing invention. It has brought a leap forward in earthquake physics, Liu Kaianqian said with certainty. She was a physics major and had some knowledge of earthquake physics. She had read Lin Fan's thesis. Liu Kaianqian knew very well how useful earthquake predictors were for earthquake physics. The earthquake prediction device has encountered a big issue this time. If it's wrong, I'm afraid it'll have some impact on Professor Lin. Xia Bing and Xia Zhu, who had always been quiet and did not like to talk, raised their heads and said in a very firm tone, Professor Lin won't be wrong. Hao Jiwu, Liu Kaianqian, Nai Junjiang, and Jiang Kaiaquen could not help but focus their attention on Xia Bing and Xia Zhu. Xia Bing and Xia Zhu met the gazes of the four people and were still extremely determined. At this moment, there was the sound of brisk footsteps outside. A tall and handsome figure slowly walked in. It was Lin Fan. Xia Bing and Xia Zhu immediately gave up on their firm gazes. They picked up the energy drinks and shyly handed them to Lin Fan. Lin Fan opened them and drank a mouthful of each. Meow. Then Lil White, who was lying on Hao Jiwu's shoulder, let out a loud cry. Master, can you give me something delicious to eat? Lil White came to Lin Fan's feet and rubbed against him. Lin Fan stroked it gently, then he tore open the premium beef cat food and poured it in front of it. Everything was as calm and ordinary as usual. It was as if Lin Fan did not know the results of the earthquake prediction device and had not seen the news. Professor Lin, have you seen the news? Hao Jiwu asked. The earthquake center seemed to have predicted that there'll be a 9.1 magnitude earthquake in Bear Country's Wuka City. But Wuka City doesn't seem to be in the earthquake zone. Is this a wrong prediction? Lin Fan patted the cat's head a few more times before saying, the earthquake prediction device can't be wrong. Really? Then, Hao Jiwu opened his mouth wanting to say something. Lin Fan did not plan to wait for him to finish his words. He said, didn't you say you wanted to study the nervous system? Have you written the thesis? Hao Jiwu coughed lightly and said, not yet. Then he turned on the computer and started typing on the keyboard. 5 days passed in a flash. There was no one left in the vast city of Wuka City. However, the eyes of everyone in the world were focused on it. There were helicopters and drones flying in the sky amidst the buildings and forests of Wuka City. They broadcasted all the scenes to all the major video websites around the world in real time. They showed the same tall buildings and empty streets. Everything was so boring. If it were in the past, no one would stop and watch for a minute. Today, this live broadcast attracted the attention of countless people around the world. Bullet comments filled the screen. Ziu, in the past, I often wanted to go to Bear Country to play, but my wallet was too thin. Now that I'm watching the live broadcast, it can be considered a dream come true. Make the buildings seem a little outdated. Jessley, the architecture is a little outdated, but the greenery is indeed not bad. OMG, what was that? Wild bear, I actually saw a wild bear. Clark, that bear is so fat. JJ, Bear Country actually moved all the residents of Wuka City. In 5 days, all the residents have been moved away. Who knows how long it'll take to move them back? KK, without the help of the authorities, it'll probably take at least a month. SKE, previously I was still a little skeptical about the news posted on the internet. They said that Bear Country was forcefully evacuating the residents. Now that I've seen the live broadcast, I believe it. Look, many of the doors weren't closed in time, and the streets are a mess. Gervais, with so many doors left open, there'll probably be a lot of theft cases when the residents are transferred back. GG, hey, there are a few stray dogs over there, they're eating bones. Perhaps the relocation of residents is a good thing for them, they can eat their fill. Mike, happy stray dogs. YY, the stray dogs may become the biggest winner. Victor, I've been watching the live broadcast since I woke up. So what about the earthquake? What about the 9.1 magnitude earthquake? Fries, I've been watching it since midnight. Tredis, let me tell you something. A magnitude 9 earthquake is equivalent to 477 million tons of TNT. If you don't know what 477 million tons of TNT means, let me give you another example. This is almost the energy of 1,000,000 nuclear weapons. Now you know how terrifying it is, right? The special effects of all blockbusters can't compare to the real thing. Mark, after hearing what you guys said, I suddenly look forward to seeing whether Lin Fan's earthquake prediction device is really accurate, even though I think it's impossible. Torin, didn't Hua Nation say that the earthquake would start at 9 o'clock? There are only 5 minutes left before it's 9 o'clock in Hua Nation. Hua Nation. Generally speaking, there should always be people talking, chatting, or constantly clapping in the conference room. However, at this moment, the old man sitting at the head of the table, as well as the men and women in formal attire, all raised their heads and watched the live broadcast silently. They looked at the time that kept jumping, and their faces were filled with solemnity and a faint worry. 3 minutes left, someone muttered. Jiangba University. Hao Jiwu, Jiang Keiaquen, Liu Kaiyanqian, Zia Bing, Zia Zhu, and the others also gathered together to discuss. However, as long as Lin Fan came, they would all immediately separate and quickly enter a learning state. However, today there was an unprecedented exception. Even though Lin Fan had already arrived at the office, they were still gathered in front of the computer. Their eyes were burning as they stared at the screen, their faces filled with nervousness. Hao Jiwu looked at the bullet comments that kept flashing on the screen and could not help but say, "Professor Lin." Before he could finish, Lin Fan interrupted, "The earthquake prediction device will never make a mistake." It was not that Lin Fan had foresight and knew what Hao Jiwu wanted to say. It was because Hao Jiwu had asked the same question too many times. It was the 6th time today. Lin Fan's reply was not perfunctory at all. This was the truth. The earthquake prediction device would never make a mistake. I think you should take a look at. This was because this was a product obtained from the system. In addition, Lin Fan also had the most detailed knowledge of earthquake predictors. He knew the functions of earthquake predictors. Hao Jiwu could not help but feel a little embarrassed. All right. Then he looked at the time on the bottom right corner of the computer and took a deep breath. 2 minutes to 9. Bear Country. In the conference room, the man with a buzz cut and the men and women in suits stared at the live broadcast screen without blinking. The atmosphere in the conference room was extremely gloomy. Many people had worried expressions on their faces. This was because they were the ones who decided to evacuate the residents of Wuka City, as well as the residents of the surrounding cities. If the earthquake prediction results were wrong, then they would also bear a lot of responsibility. At this moment, a middle-aged man whispered, "There's only 1 minute left before it's 9:00 in Hua Nation." As soon as he said this, the atmosphere in the already gloomy meeting room instantly became extremely heavy. Many people's breathing became heavy. Nervousness, uneasiness. Eh? At this moment in the live broadcast, the bullet comments were still flooding the screen. Hard as the earthquake hasn't happened yet, I almost dozed off. Jet, yes, so many people are waiting. Ged, no way. Do you guys really think that Wuka City will have a 9.1 magnitude earthquake? Meng Shea Candy, don't worry, no one believes it. Everyone is just joining in the fun. Dr. Yamamoto, earthquake forecast will still have to depend on Island Nation. Our Island Nation can accurately predict earthquakes 10 seconds in advance. Ours is the real earthquake prediction device. The earthquake prediction device in Island Nation has not responded, so the outcome is destined. Let's go. In the past, Lin Fan even wanted to say that he was Korean. We Koreans were also considering whether it was true or not. Now it seems like there's no need to consider it anymore. It's fake. He's definitely not Korean. Sky, let me tell everyone that there are still 10 seconds until 9 p.m. in Hua Nation. We're about to witness a miracle. Heavy Rain 9. SSSSS 8. Emperor Cage 7. Flower World 6. In an instant, the entire screen was completely covered in numbers. That feeling was simply not like watching a live broadcast. Instead, it was like one was watching numbers fly past the screen. Everyone was dazzled. However, they did not get tired of it. At the same time, some people had a faint sense of anticipation in their hearts. There were also some people who had prepared a large amount of mocking words and articles, ready to be sent at any time. Nicholas 3. Hunter 2. Alexander 1. Just as countless ones covered the screen. On the live broadcast screen, the originally incomparably calm skyscrapers, streets, villages, mountains, suddenly they trembled violently and emitted an extremely terrifying loud sound. It was like the roar of an abyss beast. It was ear-piercing and terrifying. The entire Wuka city was like a small boat in the middle of a storm. It suddenly jolted violently and rolled as if it would flip over and collapse at any moment. On the flat road, ferocious ravines suddenly appeared. These ravines spread rapidly, forming countless bottomless and terrifying abysses. The towering building collapsed, directly covering the group of stray dogs gnawing on the bones and stirring up dust. The huge mountain collapsed like a bubble. Rocks flew everywhere and instantly crushed the grizzly bear that was crawling. The farmland seemed to have been divided and reclaimed. It suddenly became scattered and rugged. Dust, sand, and stones filled the sky, sweeping up countless hurricanes that rushed straight into the sky. Soon, a large number of drones were smashed into pieces. Even several helicopters were unable to react in time. They were unable to control themselves and fell rapidly. The buildings fell, the earth collapsed, and the world turned upside down. The wails and howls were extremely terrifying. Doomsday had arrived. Originally, the live broadcast video with countless bullet comments. At this moment it was empty. Everyone sitting in front of their computers opened their mouths wide and widened their eyes. Their hearts were beating wildly. This was the first time they had witnessed the terrifying power of nature. It was as agile as a stray dog, as powerful as a grizzly bear, as sturdy as a tall building, and as tall as a huge mountain. Everything in the city was unable to resist the great earthquake and instantly disappeared without a trace. Simply terrifying. Cold sweat broke out on the foreheads of the residents of Wuka City who had been forcibly relocated. What if they had not been transferred? What would happen now? Just thinking about it made them shiver uncontrollably. Not to mention the ordinary people who were shocked. Even the people in the meeting room in Bear Country could not help but open their mouths wide, unable to speak for a long time. They were happy, but they were also afraid and worried. They were glad that they had evacuated the residents from the earthquake zone in time, so there were no casualties. What they were afraid of was that if it was not for Lin Fan's earthquake prediction device, and if they had not believed the results of the earthquake prediction device, then what would the consequences have been? It was absolutely terrifying to the extreme. There would not be many casualties this time. However, the aftermath of such a huge calamity was still very troublesome. This was definitely not something that could be recovered in a day. The man with a buzz cut on the main seat was the first to react. He took a deep breath and said firmly, "After the earthquake, count the casualties and property losses this time. Use all your strength to do the post-disaster reconstruction work." His voice was sonorous and powerful, pulling everyone's thoughts back to reality. Yes, everyone's figures became solemn as they said in unison. In the conference room in Hua Nation, everyone looked at the live broadcast and heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, they were extremely shocked and showed a trace of sorrow. This was because they were the ones who reported the news of the earthquake. If the report was wrong, the impact would be huge. The earthquake news was accurate. However, when they saw the earthquake, they were shocked by its terror. This kind of natural disaster was not something that human strength could withstand. It was too terrifying. The scene hit them hard. I think you should take a look at. The eyes of the leaders who were watching the live broadcast flickered. Obviously, they were feeling emotional. After a while, the leaders said, "We'll immediately start donating and helping." "Yes, sir," everyone said in unison. In an office at Jiangbei University, Nai Zhenjiang, Liu Kaianqian, Hao Jiwu, Xia Bing, Xia Zhu, and the others watched the live broadcast with their mouths agape. They were all shocked by the terrifying earthquake. Tall buildings collapsed, mountains collapsed, and the ground broke. Those comments were not wrong. This scene definitely surpassed the special effects in those blockbusters. After a long time, Hao Jiwu said in a dry voice, "Professor Lin, your earthquake prediction device is accurate." Although this was the result he had always wanted, when he said this, his tone was very dull without a trace of excitement or joy. The earthquake was simply too terrifying, and it had completely frightened him. Lin Fan stared at the screen and nodded, "Yes." When the earthquake gradually stopped, comments appeared on the empty screen. "Askuri, the earthquake was so scary." "Cursed person, I'm trembling all over." "Clown, the power of nature is boundless." "Carl, I finally understand how weak humans are in front of nature." "Delicious table, doomsday." It was as if I had seen the end of the world with my own eyes. "Edward, I'll never forget this live broadcast." "Xia Tian, I hope there'll be no more disasters in the world." "Marco Polo, thank you Hua Nation, thank you Professor Lin Fan, thank you Earthquake Prediction Device." Professor Lin's #1 fan, who said that Professor Lin's earthquake prediction device was wrong, come out. Mr. Liu, who said that Wuka City would never have a major earthquake, come out. The Flying Grasshopper, who was the one who spread rumors, come out. Love you for 10,000 years, who was the one who said that Professor Lin's earthquake prediction device doesn't work, come out. Watermelon Skin, who said that the residents of Wuka City shouldn't be relocated, come out. Stranger's Call, who was the one who said that Bear Country was stupid to listen to the rumors, come out. Countless questions appeared on the live broadcast screen. However, no one dared to step forward to answer. They were all very guilty. Of course, there were also some other comments. Li Sheng, I think Professor Lin should be from our country. Obasanta, that's right, Professor Lin is from Korea. Everyone, please thank our Korea. Takahashi Hayoko, what a powerful earthquake prediction device. I'm afraid it has already surpassed our island nation. What is Happy Planet? What do you mean by Professor Lin is from your country? Are you shameless? What is Happy Planet? Also, the commenter above, the earthquake prediction device in Island Nation can only predict 10 seconds in advance, and the accuracy rate is less than 10%. Professor Lin's earthquake prediction device can predict earthquakes 5 days in advance. Moreover, the forecast is completely correct. What can your country compare to? One man's world, don't get too agitated. Haven't they always been like this? After Bear Country confirmed that the aftershocks had ended, they arranged for construction vehicles, planes, and other machinery to quickly enter Wuka City. Immediately, clearer images of the earthquake appeared on the internet. The ground was covered in ravines, the city and town were in ruins, and there were a few livestock that had been smashed into meat patties. Although everyone had seen the scene of the earthquake in the live broadcast video. After seeing the scene after the earthquake, everyone could not help but be shocked. They could not imagine that this city, which had been quiet and peaceful a while ago, had turned into nothing in the blink of an eye. The power of nature was unimaginable. Especially the people from Wuka City who were sitting in front of the screen, they felt it the most. Katyusha, that place seems to be my home. Fortunately, the officers took us away a few days ago, otherwise I would have died. Dodgton, I still remember that it was a shopping mall and now there's such a big hole there. Pace, my school is gone. Yuehua Wit, I'm a resident of Wuka City. I just want to say one thing, thank you for your investigation. Thank you, Professor Lin. MQL, thank you officers, thank you Professor Lin. Salu, thank you officers, thank you Professor Lin. In many videos the same comment appeared over and over again. Thank you officers, thank you Professor Lin. This comment even rushed to the top of the trending searches of many news media. In order to gain traffic and attract attention, some reporters published articles written in advance. In these articles, they wrote about Lin Fan's inferior invention, the inaccurate prediction, the fact that others listened to him easily, and the consequences of the forced relocation of Wuka City's residents. Even though the articles were released a few minutes earlier, none of them paid any attention to them. It was because they believed all these things would happen. However, what they did not expect was that an earthquake really happened. BC News, the earthquake didn't happen. Professor Lin needs to take responsibility. He ignored science and opposition, acted recklessly, and bewitched the people. He forcibly moved the residents of Wuka City who used to live and work in peace and contentment to other places. As a result, countless people's families are incomplete and they were forced to leave their homes. The editor-in-chief and the others were all quietly waiting for the traffic results. They never thought that the earthquake would really happen at 9 o'clock. At 9 o'clock when the earthquake occurred, they were shocked by the terrifying scene. As a result, they were unable to immediately delete the articles. While countless people were thanking Lin Fan for his prediction, there were also many people who insulted the news. Even though the media had already deleted the articles. Candle in the Wind, BC News, do you think you'll be fine after deleting the article? Pa, how dare you insult Professor Lin? KP, the people of BC News are all evil. I just want to say to the person who wrote this article as well as the editor-in-chief of BC News, rest in peace. Kun, rest in peace, they shouldn't have a chance to rest in peace. Jia Dihua, I'm blacklisting BC News. Torin, block BC News. Ortsky, block BC News. Originally, the social media account of BC News had close to 60 million followers. In just an hour, it had dropped by 20 million. In addition, the speed of descent did not stop at all. In fact, it was getting faster and faster. The entire BC News fell into panic and despair. With a large fan base, they could still hold on for a few more hours. I think you should take a look at some small media outlets that published articles regarding the earthquake in advance could not withstand the backlash. In less than half an hour, the accounts that they had been operating for many years were all banned. This almost made them cry their eyes out. However, they deserved it. Pacifying, collecting statistics, and rebuilding Wuka City were the most important matters for Bear Country. After spending nearly half a month calculating, Bear Country finally released the news. Bear Country Daily, according to incomplete statistics, the earthquake caused 25 deaths and 71 injuries. 391 people are still missing. We'd like to thank Professor Lin for his help. This message was very brief. However, it stirred the hearts of countless people. 25 people died, 71 were injured, and 391 were missing. If this was a peaceful time, this would definitely be a big deal. However, this was a 9.1 magnitude earthquake. If it were before, it was normal for tens or even millions of people to die. Now the total number of casualties was less than 100. It was reduced by 10,000 times. It was a miracle. The person who had created this miracle was Lin Fan. Hence countless people started commenting. Flowers withering in the wind, I hope everything will get better soon. Also, thank you, Professor Lin Fan. Yiku, thank you, Professor Lin Fan. Yes, thank you, Professor Lin Fan. Edward, thank you, Professor Lin Fan. Lin Fan's name was once again on the trending news list. On the other hand, the Nobel Committee had gathered again after the last discussion. In the meeting room for the Nobel Committee for Chemistry. At this moment, they started arguing again. I have the same opinion as last time, the blonde woman said. Professor Lin's chemical battery research is very successful, but Professor Ha's research on molecular materials is equally impressive. But Professor Ha's is more experienced and knowledgeable. Therefore, I think we should award the Nobel Prize in Chemistry to Professor Ha's. Experience? The silver-haired elder asked. Knowledge, Professor Lin invented 2 types of chemical batteries. In addition, he has also made great achievements in other fields. Doesn't that prove that he's more qualified and knowledgeable? The blonde woman said, then let's talk about Professor Lin's achievements in other fields. As far as I know, Professor Lin was nominated for the Nobel Prize in Medicine and the Nobel Prize in Physics. If we give him the Chemistry Award, what if he wins the Medicine Award and the Physics Award too? The silver-haired old man glanced at her and said, following your logic, the more successful the candidate is, the less likely they'll win awards. I don't think Mr. Nobel ever had such thoughts before his death. The blonde woman opened her mouth and wanted to retort, but she could not find a good reason. She glanced at the people in the conference room and gestured for them to refute. However, the rebuttal this time was clearly less loud. Many people were either thinking about something or attracted by something. Some lowered their heads, some frowned, and some fell into deep thought. 525 choice, manuscript accepted. At this moment, the silver-framed elder sitting in the main seat cleared his throat and said, then, according to the rules, we'll proceed with the final vote. Currently there are 10 nominees. They're Ha's, Lin Fan, Jarvaiten. Please pick up the pen and paper on the table and write down your choice. The person with the most votes will win this year's Nobel Prize in Chemistry. Everyone in the conference room exchanged glances. Their expressions were all very solemn. After all, this was the highest award in the chemistry world. Then everyone slowly picked up their pens and papers. After a crisp sound, everyone raised the white paper in front of them. Ha's. Lin Fan. Lin Fan. Lin Fan. An overwhelming advantage. There was no suspense. The silver-rimmed glasses elder glanced around and said, the winner of this year's Nobel Prize in Chemistry is Hua Nation's Lin Fan. The blonde woman helplessly lowered the paper in her hand. On the other hand, similar things were happening in the conference rooms of the Nobel Committee for Physics and the Nobel Committee for Medicine. Lin Fan had indeed made great achievements in physics and medicine. However, during the discussion meeting a while ago, there was still a huge dispute. It was because some famous scholars had also made great achievements in their own fields. However, today's voting meeting was not as intense as last time. When some people suggested that Lin Fan should be the winner of this year's Nobel Prize, those who opposed it all chose to acquiesce. The Nobel Prize in Physics was a little better. This was because Lin Fan's earthquake prediction device had shown its might and prevented an extremely terrifying disaster. As a result, the earthquake prediction device was called a divine weapon. If the creator of the physics world's divine weapon could not win the Nobel Prize, it might have a huge impact on the credibility of the Nobel Prize. For the sake of the bigger picture, they had to make some concessions. Moreover, with the earthquake prediction device, Lin Fan was qualified to receive this reward. In the conference room of the Nobel Prize in Medicine, when someone proposed to choose Lin Fan, no one objected. Hua Nation and Bear Country had great influence. At this moment, Hua Nation could be said to have helped Bear Country a lot. How could they not repay him? Of course, the main reason was that Lin Fan had invented the human islet recovery drug that was so effective that it was enough for him to win a Nobel Prize. At this moment, in the Nobel Peace Prize committee conference room, the atmosphere in the conference room was a little depressing. Compared to the arguments in the other conference rooms, the Nobel Peace Prize committee conference room was peaceful when they first gathered. Moreover, everyone gave their unanimous approval and confirmed the winner of this year's Peace Prize. Now, however, everyone chose to remain silent. The white-haired old man sitting in the main seat coughed lightly and said, "The leader of the United States only started a war once and indirectly saved many lives. He's a peace-loving person and is qualified to win the Nobel Peace Prize." After a pause, he continued, "Everyone is paying attention to the earthquake that happened in Bear Country a while ago, right? That earthquake was very terrifying. Fortunately, it did not cause too many casualties. It can be said that the credit goes to Professor Lin Fan, who invented the earthquake prediction device. He also has the qualifications to win the Nobel Peace Prize." After saying that, the white-haired old man glanced at everyone in the conference room and saw that they all nodded. Thus, he continued, "In that case, this year's Nobel Peace Prize will be decided by voting. There are a total of 9 nominees for this year's Nobel Peace Prize. They are Jailsley Mike and Lin Fan." When everyone heard this, they looked at each other. Only then did they slowly write down the candidate they voted for. Lin Fan. Lin Fan. Lin Fan. All votes passed. In fact, this was normal. One had to know. Lin Fan's earthquake prediction device saved millions of lives. If he did not win the Nobel Peace Prize and the award was instead given to the person who started a war, they would be cursed to death. Seeing this, the old man sitting on the main seat heaved a sigh of relief. After all, he was the person in charge of the Nobel Peace Prize. If there was too big of a deviation, he would definitely suffer the most insults. The white-haired old man said, "The winner of this year's Nobel Peace Prize is Lin Fan." Meanwhile, in the office of Jiangbei University, Nai Junjiang, Liu Kaianqian, Jiang Keiaquan, and the others were studying seriously. At this moment, Hao Jiwu, who was scrolling the internet, suddenly shouted excitedly, "Professor Lin, you're on the trending searches again." Where? Nai Junjiang, Liu Kaianqian, Xia Bing, Xia Zhu, and the others quickly surrounded him. Especially Xia Bing and Xia Zhu, they were the fastest. As long as they heard good news about Lin Fan, they would be extremely excited and happy. Number 1 on the trending searches, look, thank you, Professor Lin Fan. The magnitude 9.1 earthquake only caused less than 100 casualties. We really should thank Professor Lin, Liu Kaianqian said seriously. Xia Bing, Xia Zhu, Nai Junjiang, and the others nodded. Lin Fan gently stroked the cat Lil White and rubbed his ears. "Don't be so agitated." Hao Jiwu and the others were not in the mood to study these past few days. They continued to pay attention to the news of the earthquake in Wuka City. As soon as they saw the trending searches about Lin Fan, they would let out a wave of excited cries. This shocked Lin Fan so much that his ears hurt. At this moment, an email popped up on Lin Fan's computer. It turned out to be the editorial department of CL. They had replied to Xia Bing and Xia Zhu's last paper. CT was one of the top journals in the field of computer science. It received countless manuscripts every day. If it were not for the help of the super smart watch, it would have been considered fast to receive a reply in 10 days. Lin Fan said, "Xia Bing, Xia Zhu, the thesis you submitted to the journal last time has been accepted. It'll be published in the next issue of the journal." The manuscript for the journal was accepted. Hao Jiwu, Nai Junjiang, Liu Kaianqian, and Jiang Keiaquan all shouted excitedly. "Xia Bing, Xia Zhu, congratulations. You guys are so powerful, that's a top computer science journal. Congratulations. That's great." Xia Bing and Xia Zhu were equally happy. They were not happy because their thesis was published in the top journal. It was because they and Lin Fan had created this thesis together. It was like their child had grown up. Looking at how happy everyone was, Lin Fan seemed to have been infected by it as he smiled. At this moment the phone in his pocket rang. 526 award-winning trending searches, 1. Lin Fan looked at the caller ID and realized that it was an unfamiliar number from overseas. If it was an ordinary person, they would definitely choose to hang up when they saw this kind of unfamiliar number. This was because most of the calls were scams. However, Lin Fan had acquired too many foreign assets such as LV, Volkswagen, Shangri-La, Gucci, and other companies. He often received similar calls from foreign strangers. This time, he thought it was another call from the chairman of some company. Therefore, he pressed the answer button. "Hello, are you Professor Lin Fan?" Fluent English came from the other end of the phone. Lin Fan said in Chinese, "It's me, who are you?" The voice on the phone paused for a moment. Then the person stuttered in Chinese. "P. Professor Lin, hello. I'm Gordashev, the president of the Nobel Committee for Chemistry. After our committee's discussion and voting, I'm informing you that you've won this year's Nobel Prize in Chemistry." Nobel Prize in Chemistry. If an ordinary person heard this news, they would definitely shout and be overjoyed. They would not be able to control themselves at all. However, Lin Fan only replied calmly, "Oh. Oh. Nothing else." The person on the other end of the phone was obviously stunned. After a long while he continued, "I'd like to congratulate you. Well, goodbye, Mr. Lin." Goodbye. After Lin Fan finished speaking, he hung up the phone. "Professor Lin, is it the media again?" Hao Zhiwu could not help but ask. In the past few days, there were many media outlets that wanted to interview Lin Fan. Without exception, Lin Fan chose to reject all of them. All this while, Lin Fan had never wanted to expose himself. Once exposed, it would completely destroy his leisurely life. He did not want to disguise himself no matter where he went to prevent a group of people from suddenly running out and claiming to be his fans. They would take photos of him crazily with their phones. In addition, the interviews were troublesome. Lin Fan shook his head and said, "It's not the media. The president of the Nobel Committee for Chemistry called to tell me that I won this year's Nobel Prize in Chemistry." Lin Fan's tone was very calm. It was as if he was saying that someone was asking him if he had eaten. However, it was like thunder in the ears of everyone in the office. What did they hear? The president of the Nobel Committee for Chemistry called to inform Lin Fan that he had won this year's Nobel Prize in Chemistry. Although they had seen many people discussing on the internet that Lin Fan would win this year's Nobel Prize. And they also felt that Lin Fan could win the Nobel Prize. They were just. After all, it was not the truth. In addition, Lin Fan was too young, and the time he took to achieve those achievements was too short. If Lin Fan did not win the Nobel Prize, no one would be too surprised. In some sense, the academic world was also a circle of people who evaluated seniority. Now they heard that Lin Fan had won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. How could they not be excited? "Professor Lin, you're amazing. Nobel Prize in Chemistry, Professor Lin, congratulations." "Congratulations, Professor Lin." "That's great." Hao Zhiwu, Liu Kaianqian, Nai Zhenjiang, and the others shouted. Even though they were looking forward to Lin Fan winning the Nobel Prize in Medicine and the Nobel Prize in Physics, winning the Nobel Prize in Chemistry was not bad either. As long as it was a Nobel Prize, it would be enough. It was a big event to be happy about. Looking at how excited they were, Lin Fan could not help but shake his head with a smile. At this moment his phone rang again. He glanced at the caller ID and saw that it was still an unfamiliar number from abroad. Lin Fan did not hesitate and answered the call. "Hello, may I ask if this is Professor Lin Fan?" A rather dull voice came from the phone. Lin Fan said, "It's me." "Professor Lin, hello, I'm Jeffers, the president of the Nobel Committee for Physics. After the voting and recommendation of the Nobel Committee for Physics, I hereby inform you that you have won this year's Nobel Prize in Physics." He had just received the Nobel Prize in Chemistry, and now he was receiving the Nobel Prize in Physics. Lin Fan was stunned for a moment. "All right." The two of them continued chatting for a while before hanging up. "Is it the media?" Hao Zhiwu asked again. "The media found out that you won the Nobel Prize so quickly." It's the president of the Nobel Committee for Physics, Lin Fan said. He told me that I won the Nobel Prize in Physics. Silence. The originally noisy office suddenly became silent. Hao Jiwu, Liu Kaianqian, Nai Zhenjiang, Jiang Keiaqun, and the others all gaped in shock. What did they just hear? The president of the Nobel Committee for Physics called to inform Lin Fan that he had won the Nobel Prize in Physics. A minute or two ago, Lin Fan had been notified that he had won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. Now he was informed that he had won the Nobel Prize in Physics. The same person won 2 Nobel Prizes in the same year. This was definitely something that had never happened before. Another Nobel Prize. The Nobel Prize in Physics. That's great. Awesome. They danced and shouted. 527 award-winning, trending searches, too. He looked even happier than if he had won the Nobel Prize. While everyone was excited, Lin Fan's phone rang again. It was an unfamiliar foreign number once again. Just like before, Lin Fan chose to pick up the call. Hello, Professor Lin Fan, I'm Choba, the chairman of the Nobel Committee for Medicine. A slightly hoarse voice sounded from the other end. When Lin Fan heard this, a strange look appeared on his face. The president of the Nobel Committee for Medicine. Hello. Today, the Nobel Committee for Medicine conducted a rigorous selection and finally elected you as the winner of this year's Nobel Prize in Medicine. Congratulations. All right, when Lin Fan received the call, he had already expected it, so he answered even faster. After hanging up the phone, Lin Fan saw Hao Jiwu and the others looking at him questioningly. It's a call from the president of the Nobel Committee for Medicine. He told me that I won the Nobel Prize in Medicine. Hao Jiwu immediately jumped up. As expected, I told you that Professor Lin would definitely win the Nobel Prize in Medicine, right? After all, Professor Lin invented the human islet recovery drug. How big of an achievement is this? The other people in the office were still a little stunned. After hearing Hao Jiwu's words, they also shouted excitedly. Three Nobel Prizes. Heavens! Professor Lin, you're too amazing. I feel like I'm dreaming. There was a long debate on the internet about which Nobel Prize Professor Lin would win. Who would have thought that Professor Lin would win the Nobel Prize in Physics, Chemistry, and Medicine at the same time? No, Xia Bing and Xia Zhu thought of it. When they mentioned this, they could not help but focus their eyes on Xia Bing and Xia Zhu. In the past, if Xia Bing and Xia Zhu were stared at by so many people, they would definitely be so shy that they wanted to bury their heads. Now they raised their heads and looked at Lin Fan with their beautiful eyes. Their faces were filled with smiles and blessings. Lin Fan won 3 Nobel Prizes. In the eyes of Xia Bing and Xia Zhu, Lin Fan's body was emitting a dazzling light. His entire person seemed to have transformed into a fiery red sun, extremely dazzling. At this moment, Lin Fan's phone rang again. This time there was no exception, it was also a foreign number. Lin Fan had already received 3 overseas calls. Now that he received another one, he seemed to have gotten used to it and immediately pressed the answer button. Hello, are you Professor Lin Fan? A burst of fluent English sounded on the phone. Lin Fan said in Chinese, it's me. After a while, a magnetic voice came from the phone again. Professor Lin, how are you? I'm the assistant of Mr. Marco, the chairman of the Nobel Peace Prize Committee. Mr. Marco said that after a vote by all the members of the Nobel Peace Committee, you've been decided as the winner of this year's Nobel Peace Prize. After the Nobel Prize in Chemistry, the Nobel Prize in Physics, and the Nobel Prize in Medicine, he also won the Nobel Peace Prize. The weird look on Lin Fan's face grew even more intense. All right. After that, they chatted for a while more before hanging up. Lin Fan looked at everyone in the office and said, the president of the Nobel Peace Prize Committee called and said that I won the Peace Prize. Silence. The entire office fell silent again. Hao Jiwu, Liu Kaianqian, Nai Zhenjiang, and the others had thought that Lin Fan might win the Nobel Prize in Medicine, Physics, or Chemistry. However, they had never thought that Lin Fan would win the Nobel Peace Prize. When Lin Fan said that, everyone was completely taken aback. Hao Jiwu's ability to accept things seemed to be far better than others. He was the first to react and shouted, F***CK, 4, Professor Lin won 4 Nobel Prizes, awesome too awesome. The others finally came back to their senses. The Nobel Peace Prize, that's right. Professor Lin invented the earthquake prediction device which detected the earthquake in advance and saved countless people. He deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. A single person has won 4 Nobel Prizes. This is absolutely unprecedented. How is it unprecedented? In the future, there'll never be someone like that again. Oh my God, I'm actually the student of a professor with 4 Nobel Prizes. Am I dreaming? This is awesome. Even if everyone shouted until their voices broke, even if their throats hurt. They did not care about any of it. They were too excited. After Hao Jiwu finished shouting, his gaze fell on Lin Fan and his phone. He muttered, I wonder if the chairman of the Nobel Literature Committee will call. When Lin Fan heard this, his lips twitched. A call from the Nobel Literature Committee's president. Do you want me to win another Nobel Prize in Literature? A single person monopolizing all the Nobel Prizes this year. It seemed pretty good. Unfortunately, Lin Fan had never published any literature. Naturally, he could not win the Nobel Prize in Literature. On Weibo, the trending searches included a certain celebrity's divorce, some common knowledge about life, the plot of a certain TV show, and so on. These sorts of hot trending searches appeared all year round, and many people were already used to them. However, many people still could not help but click on the title to see what was going on. At this moment, an unusual title appeared at the bottom of the trending searches. Every few seconds, the popularity would increase rapidly, and it would continue to rise to the top of the rankings. Congratulations to Professor Lin Fan for winning 4 Nobel Prizes. When everyone saw the title, they could not help but click on it. Nation Daily, congratulations to Professor Lin Fan for winning 4 Nobel Prizes. They're the Nobel Prize for Chemistry, Physics, Medicine, and the Nobel Peace Prize. Professor Lin Fan is the first person from Hua to win these awards. Ever since the Nobel Prize was established, more than one award has never been given to the same person in the same year. Professor Lin has made history, he's absolutely deserving of it. Let us congratulate Professor Lin Fan. Let's review Professor Lin's academic achievements. In the field of mathematics, Professor Lin solved Joule's conjecture, the twin prime number conjecture, Hale's conjecture, Hodge's conjecture, and Riemann's hypothesis. It's worth mentioning that the Fields Medal is known as the Nobel Prize in Mathematics. It's the highest honor in the mathematics world. He's the Emperor of Mathematics. In the field of computers, Professor Lin invented the carbon-based photolithographic machine and carbon-based chips. They improved the performance of the phone by leaps and bounds, allowing us to enter the game world. He's the creator of the AI chip. In the field of chemistry, Professor Lin invented 2 types of super batteries and other chemical batteries. As a result, the endurance of mobile phones and new energy vehicles has undergone earth-shaking changes. Not only have they made our lives more convenient, but they've also greatly reduced exhaust gases. He's the guardian of Earth. In the field of physics, Professor Lin invented the earthquake prediction device. This invention can detect earthquakes 5 days before they happen, giving us better protection against nature. He's the guardian of humanity. In the medical field, Professor Lin developed the human islet recovery drug. Diabetes is one of the top 10 diseases in the world. According to statistics, there are more than 100 million people with diabetes in our country alone. Countless people are tortured by diabetes, but the drug is very effective in treating diabetes. He's an angel who saves lives. As for peace, the earthquake prediction device invented by Professor Lin prevented countless people from suffering from a natural disaster. He's the symbol of peace. 528 hot-blooded, Time Restaurant. The comments under Nation Daily's posts increased rapidly. 1,000. 10,000. 100,000. 1996 After Dusk, Nobel Prize in Physics, Nobel Prize in Chemistry, Nobel Prize in Medicine, and Nobel Peace Prize. Professor Lin Fan has won 4 Nobel Prizes. Professor Lin, you're the greatest. Gugu, the emperor of mathematics, the creator of the chip, the guardian of Earth, the guardian of humanity, the angel who saves the dying and heals the wounded, the elite of peace. After hearing the Nation Daily's evaluation, for some reason my eyes suddenly moistened. Worldly trails, I'm inexplicably excited. Freedom like the wind. If I remember correctly, this is the first time that the Nation Daily has published so many Weibo posts about one person in a row, right? Hello tomorrow, I thought that the Nation Daily had mistaken Weibo for moments. No one loves you if you're not stupid. Either you don't win the Nobel Prize or you win four. Kayan Rangsu, Professor Lin awesome. Why not Professor Lin is awesome? Fallen deceased, Professor Lin awesome. Lin Fan did not care about the news published by the Nation Daily. He did not care, but many were so excited that they could not control themselves. Jiangbei University, the Chancellor's office. Principal Shen Liang looked at the news on Weibo and shouted excitedly, "Good, good, good, that's great." He picked up his phone and was about to call Lin Fan. However, he quickly put it down and muttered, "No, I have to congratulate him in person." As he spoke, he took Skip toward Lin Fan's office. That appearance. He was like a child who had just received a certificate. He was extremely happy. It was normal for Shen Liang to be like this. He was an educational worker and a Chinese scholar. It was the most regrettable thing that there was no Chinese Nobel Prize winner in the field of science. Now this hope had finally been fulfilled. Moreover, Lin Fan won the Nobel Prize in medicine, chemistry, and physics at once. More importantly, this person was from Jiangbei University. When Shen Liang arrived at the office, the dean of the mathematics department, the dean of the chemistry department, the dean of the medical department, the dean of the physics department, and many other professors had already arrived. However, in the office there were only Hao Jiwu, Nai Junjiang, Zia Bing, Zia Zhu, and the other students. Where was Lin Fan? Professor Lin said that he has something to deal with during this period of time, so he might not come to school for the next few days, Hao Jiwu said. Shen Liang, the deans, and the other professors looked at each other helplessly. It seemed like they could not congratulate him in person. However, this helplessness came and went quickly. After a while, their faces were filled with excitement again. Our chemistry department is preparing to hold a large-scale report on super batteries. Our physics department is preparing for a seminar on earthquake prediction devices. Shen Liang listened to everyone's words and nodded repeatedly. Everyone, work hard together. We must do a good job of promoting Professor Lin Fan. This will be the highest priority of Jiangbei University. Yes, sir, everyone said in unison. When Lin Fan saw that he had won the Nobel Prize, the reactions of Hao Jiwu, Nai Junjiang, and the others, as well as the heated discussions on the internet, made Lin Fan realize that things were going to be very troublesome. Lin Fan hated trouble. Thus, he left Jiangbei University and took a few days off. At this moment, Lin Fan had already arrived at the Coiling Dragon Villa. He lay on the soft sofa, swiping his phone while eating the exquisite desserts sent by the 2-star Michelin restaurant. He was extremely satisfied. In the blink of an eye, it was the second day. The heavy rain last night made the morning air heavy with a sweet smell. The little caterpillars hiding in the tree holes could not help but crawl out to breathe in the sweet air. While the caterpillars were intoxicated, a ferocious and terrifying giant bird suddenly flew over from afar. It used its terrifying beak to peck down fiercely and directly ate the caterpillars. I ate another bug. I also ate a total of bugs, said a little bird beside it. Let's continue. Amidst the chirping of the little bird, Lin Fan slowly opened his eyes. Out of habit, he glanced at his phone. A message had already appeared on the screen. Notice from Merchant Bank, 36,790,010 yuan was deposited into your account. Then Lin Fan turned his attention to the sign-in system. Sign in. Ding, you've successfully signed in. Congratulations, you've obtained the Time Restaurant. Seeing this, Lin Fan's expression changed. Finally, it's not 10 million. Time Restaurant? A while ago, I heard Hao Jiwu say that it's a restaurant with good food. At this moment, Lin Fan's stomach growled. I don't have anything to do anyway. I'll go to Time Restaurant for a meal later. I can also check in on my own restaurant. After saying that, Lin Fan slowly crawled up. After washing up, he picked up the keys to the Cullinan and walked out. He stepped on the gas pedal, and the V12 engine roared like a beast as it sped off into the distance. The security guards standing at the door stood up straight like soldiers being inspected. At this time, it was already past the peak of the morning rush, and every road was relatively empty. About half an hour later, Lin Fan arrived at Time Restaurant. The restaurant had a total of 3 floors and occupied a large area. The decorations were very warm and comfortable, giving people the feeling of returning home. A round-faced woman about 1.55 meters tall was holding a phone as she walked to the entrance of the Time Restaurant. "Good morning, everyone," she said into her phone. "Recently, I've heard a lot of people recommending Time Restaurant in Jiangbei. Today, I'll try it on behalf of everyone. Let's see if the food here is as delicious as everyone has said." The round-faced woman's name was Li Heiyan, and she was a food streamer with 3 million fans. Li Heiyan explored restaurants and showed off her good looks. Generally speaking, a round-faced woman who was 1.55 meters tall was not as good-looking. However, her appearance in the live broadcast had strangely changed. She had an oval face, big eyes, and fair skin. Overall, she looked like a beauty who had walked out of a comic. This was the magical part of Douyin. It had the magical ability to completely change a person's appearance. Then, Li Heiyan turned the camera to the entrance of Time Restaurant. 529 food streamer, delicious. Soon, a large number of comments appeared like raindrops. Natsuya Kira, that's great, I've long wanted to try the Time Restaurant. Shrimp eyes, just looking at the decorations, I think the food is very good. Xuanyuan Longyi, such a big restaurant, it's over. It's going to expose Heiyan's inexperienced appearance again. Tomb of Heaven and Earth, go in quickly. Trembling BBB, let's donate a little in case Heiyan can't afford to eat later. As more and more comments appeared, the number of gifts also increased. Li Heiyan's small eyes immediately turned into slits as she smiled. However, in the live broadcast room, her eyes turned into crescent moon shapes which were very beautiful. As a result, more and more gifts were sent. Then Li Heiyan strolled into Time Restaurant. When she saw the spacious area and the luxurious lamps, her mouth could not help but open wide. Her face was filled with admiration and shock. "Wow, this is too beautiful." Then she sniffed hard and said, "There's also a very fragrant smell in the air." No one noticed that there was a faint hint of disdain at the corner of her mouth. The comments in the live broadcast room started rolling again. "A passerby on Earth, it's over, it's over. Heiyan is starting to embarrass herself again. Winter JJ is too cold. Heiyan, keep a low profile, keep a low profile, you're in a big restaurant now. Solitude in the sea, don't ask too much of Heiyan, after all she's just a cute little girl." At this moment, the oval-faced waitress standing at the door smiled and said, "Welcome." Li Heiyan seemed to notice the waitress and praised again, "Is this a high-end restaurant? The waitress is so beautiful and sweet." Although she said that, her face revealed an imperceptible disdain. In the live broadcast room. Prologue actor, it's over, Heiyan is hopeless. Doctor's benevolent heart, Heiyan, you have to remember that you're a big food streamer. The waitress blushed. She had never been praised like this before. Li Heiyan seemed to have discovered a new continent and said, "Wow," the beautiful lady blushed, "she's so cute." The oval-faced waitress stuttered, "Do you have an appointment?" Li Heiyan said, "No, do I need to make an appointment here? Does that mean I can't eat here today?" "That's not the case," the oval-faced waitress said. "It's just that you might not be able to take reserved seats. As long as I can eat here today." Li Heiyan let out a breath and gently patted her chest. Then, Li Heiyan walked inside under the guidance of the female attendant. When she passed by the small bridge in the middle of the restaurant and the lifelike white crane statue in the middle, she said in surprise, "Wow, there's actually a small bridge and flowing water in the restaurant. Moreover, there's a white crane, it's so beautiful. I want to take a beautiful photo with the white crane." After saying that, she moved the phone to the white crane and herself. then pressed the shutter button. Finally, Lee Hae-in came to a seat by the window. "What would you like to eat, miss?" asked the waitress. "I have to ask my fans first to see if there's anything delicious." Then her gaze fell on the live broadcast screen. 9 Elements Infinity Beef Time Restaurant's M5 steak is their signature dish. PM, get 18 delicacies, it's super delicious. Smile, 10 pounds of lobster. Yes, 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 10 pounds of lobsters and golden fish. Lee Hae-in said, "I'll get M5 steak, 18 delicacies, 10 pounds of lobster and golden fish. Give me a serving of soup too." The waitress could not help but say hesitantly, "Do you have any other friends coming?" "No, I'm alone," Lee Hae-in said. "Then these dishes might be a little too much," the waitress reminded her kindly. Long-winded. Lee Hae-in looked annoyed. However, she still smiled and said, "It's okay, I have a big appetite and eat a lot." Hearing this, the waitress did not say anything more. She said, "Okay, please wait a moment." In the live broadcast room, Bin, the waitress, was actually worried that Hae-in wouldn't be able to finish her breakfast. She's really underestimating Hae-in. Isn't that so? Although Hae-in is small, her appetite is not small at all. This is also the reason why I can't marry Hae-in. I can't afford to take care of her. Big man, get lost. You want to marry Hae-in, she's mine. Temporary commenter, 10 pounds of lobster. I really want to see what kind of expression Hae-in will have when she sees a lobster bigger than herself. It had to be said that the efficiency of Time Restaurant was extremely high. Not long after, exquisite delicacies were served. 18 bowls were served for 18 delicacies, and each bowl was very exquisite and small. This was one of Time Restaurant's signature dishes, 18 delicacies. "Wow," Lee Hae-in said excitedly, "I can't even bear to eat such good food." After saying that, she picked up a bowl and put the food into her mouth. "Yes, delicious." In the live broadcast room. Missing, why does such a beautiful woman look like she hasn't eaten? Path of Usura, can't bear to eat it. I could even see Hae-in drooling from the corner of her mouth. Mowinchin saliva, where slurp. Mermaid incarnation, Hae-in, pay attention to your image, you're a beauty, why are you licking your fingers? Lee Hae-in did not seem to notice the comments and continued to eat seriously. However, without anyone noticing, she quietly threw a few of the bowls into the trash can. At this moment, the M5 steak was served. "Do you wish to pour the sauce on it?" the waitress asked. Lee Hae-in seemed to be completely attracted by the big, beautiful steak. After a while, she finally reacted and said, "Ah, okay, pour it then." After the sauce was poured onto the steak, an alluring fragrance immediately wafted out. Lee Hae-in took a deep breath and said, "Wow, it smells so good." Then she picked up her knife and fork and quickly cut a piece of beef into her mouth. Immediately, Lee Hae-in's eyes widened as she praised, "Delicious." Then she cut another piece of beef and put it into her mouth. When she picked up the knife and fork again and was about to continue cutting the meat, she felt that it was too slow. Hence, Lee Hae-in picked up the entire steak with her hand. "It's so hot." She yelled twice and stuffed the big piece of beef into her mouth. F***CK. Delicious, this is awesome. 530 off-stream, pay for the bill. In the live broadcast room, countless comments continued to appear. "Little Wenzai, Hae-in, you have to remember that you are a girl, you're a girl." Misery of love's physicness, Hae-in actually used her hands to hold the steak and chomp on it. Her face is full of grease and it even dripped onto her clothes. It's over, it's over. Her image as a goddess is completely shattered. Carefree life, no way, no way. There are actually people who treat Hae-in as a goddess. Incarnation of man and demon, the goddess is a goddess but she's a psychopath. In the live broadcast, Lee Hae-in was completely immersed in the delicious steak and could not extricate herself. In fact, she kept looking for opportunities to quietly throw it into the trash can. Finally, the entire steak was eaten clean. She even looked as if she had not had enough and licked her fingers hard. At this moment, the 10-pound lobster was served. When she saw the arm-long lobster, Lee Hae-in's eyes and mouth widened as she shouted, "Wow, it's so big. Do you see that? Such a big lobster. It's almost half my height. Heavens!" Lee Hae-in could not help but exclaim, Then she hurriedly picked up the lobster's pincers and took a big bite. I'm so satisfied, so satisfied. Delicious. As she ate, she shouted excitedly as if she was completely immersed in the delicious food. She kept throwing the meat into the trash can where the camera could not see. These delicacies were indeed delicious. However, she was already full when she ate 18 delicacies. How could she still eat? When Lee Hayan burped, the lobster on the table had been completely devoured by her. She rubbed her stomach and said, I'm full, today's trip to Time Restaurant is over. See you next time, everyone. I'm too full, I have to rest now. Mo Wenchen Hayan. Why don't you look at how much you've eaten? Wushwang, every time I watch Hayan's live broadcast, I feel like I can eat 2 big bowls of rice. The world is mine, goodbye Hayan. Unique, let's sponsor her a little so that Hayan can afford it. I don't want to see her washing dishes during the next live broadcast. Thus, the live broadcast room received another wave of gifts. Lee Hayan was full of smiles and could not stop thanking the viewers. After a while she turned off the live stream. The smile on Lee Hayan's face instantly disappeared, as if she had suddenly become a different person. At this moment, the oval-faced waitress slowly walked over with a few bags of snacks. She said with a smile, Hi, these are some snacks prepared by our restaurant, I hope you like them. Lee Hayan glanced at the snacks and said indifferently, All right then. She took the snacks and got ready to walk out. The oval-faced waitress was slightly stunned. She saw that Lee Hayan was about to walk out of the restaurant. She could not help but say, Ooh, miss, you seem to have forgotten to pay the bill. The bill, Lee Hayan dragged out her voice and called out. It was as if she had heard the funniest joke in the world. You want me to pay, Lee Hayan said in disbelief. The oval-faced waitress was at a loss. Since she had eaten here, she had to pay the bill. Was this not within reason? Moreover, her meal cost a lot. Thinking of this, she nodded lightly. Seeing this, Lee Hayan was furious and started cursing. You're blind. Do you know who I am? I'm the food streamer Hayan. I have more than 3 million fans on Douyin. I ate in your restaurant and live streamed it. How much traffic will this bring you? I didn't even ask you for money. How dare you ask me to pay? The oval-faced waitress did not expect the other party to suddenly curse. She did not know what to do. She stammered, but Time Restaurant never invited you over. You didn't invite me? All right. Do you mean to say that I'm taking advantage of your restaurant's reputation? Call your manager over. Lee Hayan became even angrier. Her voice became very ear-piercing and her entire face became a little ferocious. Not far away, the general manager in a suit hurriedly walked over when he heard the voices. Even though he did not know what had happened, he still used a very friendly attitude toward Lee Hayan and said, Miss, I'm sorry for giving you a bad experience. May I ask what happened? I'm Zhang Shuwei, the manager of Time Restaurant. After all, in the service industry, the customer was always right. At this moment, there were still many diners in the restaurant. If this left a bad impression on others, it would definitely be a very bad thing. When Lee Hayan heard that Zhang Shuwei was the manager, she only glanced at him from the corner of her eye. Manager, you're here just in time. Do you know that I'm a food streamer with more than 3 million fans? My name is Hayan. I came to visit the restaurant today and broadcasted the entire process to my audience. Do you know how much traffic this will bring to your restaurant? However, your waitress actually wants me to pay. Don't you think it's ridiculous? Zhang Shuwei first smiled apologetically. I see, I'm sorry. Then he whispered to the waitress, what food did she order? The oval-faced waitress said, 18 delicacies, M5 steak soup and a 10-pound lobster. Zhang Shuwei frowned slightly. If they were ordinary dishes, he would just let it go. However, these dishes were all expensive. The 10-pound lobster cost tens of thousands. Zhang Shuwei stole a glance at Lee Hayan. She looked like she would not give up. He was struggling in his heart. Why not just forget about it? After all, she was a big streamer with 3 million fans and could not be easily offended. Thinking of this, Zhang Shuwei finally gritted his teeth and said, Miss Hayan, I'm sorry. This waiter is a newcomer and doesn't know the rules. However, Lee Hayan continued, Do you think just saying that she doesn't know the rules is enough? If the free had been made free earlier, it would have been fine. But she made me unhappy. Now everything has to be settled according to the normal rules. My normal visit to a restaurant costs 200,000 yuan. You just need to pay me 200,000 yuan. Zhang Shui's expression changed slightly. He could still think of a way to exempt the cost of ingredients that amounted to tens of thousands. However, the 200,000 yuan visit fee was definitely not something he could decide directly. Zhang Shui's expression changed. After a long while he said, Ms. Heiyan, right, I'm afraid we'll have to discuss the cost. Li Heiyan's face turned cold as she snorted, a discussion? What was there to discuss? This is the market price. Although I did a live broadcast and ate a lot of food, I haven't taken a summary video yet. If my stomach hurts or something later, I'll mention it in the summary video too. When the time comes, all my 3 million plus fans will be able to see it. A threat. A blatant threat. Zhang Shui's face instantly turned very ugly. The current world was an age of the internet. If a restaurant did not do a good job, the news would spread. Then the restaurant would definitely suffer a serious blow. It was even possible for it to close down because of this. Zhang Shui was the general manager of Time Restaurant. This morning, he had just received news that Time Restaurant had a new owner. Now was the time for him to focus on his performance and satisfy his new boss. If this kind of news was exposed, what would happen to the restaurant's business? At that time, how would the new boss view him? However, 200,000 yuan for a visit. Zhang Shui was in a dilemma. The oval-faced waitress standing at the side was completely angered by Li Heiyan's ugly face. Manager, we don't have to care about her, she said angrily. I don't believe that she can twist the truth. Really? Li Heiyan sneered. Are you sure? Have you considered it? At this moment, a loud voice sounded not far away. There's no need to consider. Then a tall and handsome young man slowly walked over. It was Lin Fan. When Li Heiyan saw Lin Fan, her eyes could not help but shimmer. He was so handsome. Manager Zhang Shui's heart skipped a beat. Was this not the new owner of Time Restaurant? Zhang Shui took a few quick steps and hurriedly went up to Lin Fan. He bowed and said in an extremely respectful tone, Mr. Lin, good day. Lin Fan nodded casually. Then he said indifferently to Li Heiyan, first, you have to pay for your meal. Secondly, Time Restaurant won't give you a single cent for visiting the restaurant. Li Heiyan first broadcasted live in the restaurant, noisily making exclamations while ignoring the others who were eating here. After that, she wasted the food as she pleased. In the end, she even asked for a high fee for visiting the restaurant. This made Lin Fan hate Li Heiyan. Therefore, he did not hold back. Li Heiyan's face darkened slightly. She did not expect a young man to suddenly jump out and say such words to her. She did not answer Lin Fan and turned to Zhang Shui. Manager Zhang, what's your attitude? Mr. Lin's attitude is the same as Time Restaurant's attitude, said Zhang Shui immediately. His tone was clear. I think you should take a look at. Previously, Zhang Shui had found it difficult to deal with this matter. Now Lin Fan was here, he was the boss. It was fine as long as he listened to the boss. Li Heiyan was not angry. Then let's see who'll be the unlucky one in the end. Then she suddenly bent down and sat on the ground, wailing, ah, my stomach. As she spoke, she did not forget to take out her phone and record herself. Li Heiyan pretended to be in great pain and said, I just ate 18 delicacies, steak and lobster from Time Restaurant. Why does it suddenly hurt so much? As she spoke, she did not forget to adjust the color of the video, making her entire face look pale as if she was really in pain. It had to be said that Li Heiyan had some skills. Lin Fan said disdainfully, stop pretending. However, Li Heiyan did not seem to understand and said, pretend, why should I pretend? She seemed to be in even more pain. She lay on the ground and said, you seem to be the manager and employees of the restaurant, right? Yes. Could you please call an ambulance for me? Please, I beg of you, please. Then her phone started shaking violently. Only then did she put away her phone and slowly get up. After all, they were in the restaurant. She did not want too many people to watch, so she just stopped there. What she had just done was enough. Lee Hayan believed that the people in front of her would make the best choice. What do you think will happen if I upload this footage to my account? After saying that, she slowly raised her neck like a proud white swan waiting for others to look up to her. Lin Fan said, "Really? Then upload it. I really want to know what the result is." Li Heiyan raised her eyebrows and turned to Zhang Shui. "Manager Zhang, do you have the same opinion?" Zhang Shui glanced at Lin Fan and said, "We'll listen to Mr. Lin." "Fine, don't regret it," Li Heiyan said sternly. Then she edited the video and uploaded it directly to her account. Lin Fan took out his phone and found the number of Alphabet's chairman, Zhang Daming. He called him directly. A long time ago, Lin Fan signed in and obtained 5% of Alphabet Jump's shares. Although 5% did not seem like much, it made Lin Fan the third largest shareholder. Alphabet was the parent company of Douyin. Back when he held Ling Ru's concert, Douyin had helped a lot. After a while, the call was connected, and Zhang Daming's very respectful voice came from the other end. "Mr. Lin, good afternoon. In the morning, I suddenly heard a magpie chirping. I was wondering what sort of good news was going to bestow me today. It turns out to be a call from you." This was obviously a joke. He even flattered him inadvertently. At the same time, it could also help to close the relationship between the two of them. It had to be said that since Zhang Daming was able to establish a big company like Alphabet, his techniques and abilities were strong. On the other hand, he was also good at dealing with interpersonal relationships. Of course, if it were an ordinary person, Zhang Daming would definitely not be so ingratiating. Firstly, Lin Fan was the third largest shareholder of Alphabet. Secondly, he knew that Lin Fan had been increasing his shares and acquiring Penguin Group and Little Tanuki Group. His shares in those companies amounted to 80%. Penguin Group and Little Tanuki Group could be acquired with 80% of the shares. What about Alphabet? Zhang Daming understood that Lin Fan had terrifying strength. He was someone he could not afford to offend. Lin Fan did not care about Zhang Daming's flattery and said directly, "Mr. Zhang, can you do me a favor?" Zhang Daming's heart skipped a beat and he quickly said, "Mr. Lin, please go ahead." 532 Take Charge Punishment 1. Zhang Daming was both excited and nervous. He was excited that Lin Fan was asking for his help. This was definitely a good time to get closer to him. What made him nervous was that for a big shot like Lin Fan to personally call for help, it was definitely not a small matter. What if he could not solve it? Then what should we do? Lin Fan said, "There's a food streamer called Heiyin on your Douyin. She made a fake video to slander my Time restaurant. Help me ban her video and account." Zhang Daming was slightly stunned. Banning a food streamer. Was it that simple? After a while, Zhang Daming saw that Lin Fan did not continue to speak. He immediately promised, "A food streamer actually dared to shoot a video to frame your restaurant. I'll ban her now." "All right," said Lin Fan. "Also, I'll send you a video later. Help me promote it." "Yes, Mr. Lin," Zhang Daming said. Li Heiyan, who was standing at the side, heard all of it. However, she did not care at all. Instead, she sneered and said, "Ban me. All right, then I suggest you hurry up. Otherwise, my video is going to be spread all over the internet by my 3 million fans. Ha ha ha." At this moment, Li Heiyan's phone vibrated slightly. She picked up her phone and glanced at it casually. In the next moment, Li Heiyan's pupils constricted. That was because a message had popped up on her app. "Your account has been permanently banned for violating the relevant regulations. All videos will be removed." Then she quickly entered her account. Everything was blank. Immediately after, a prompt box popped up. "Sorry, your account has been frozen and can't be used. Please exit." There was nothing else. Her account was gone. Li Heiyan had invested a lot of money to promote this account and attract popularity. It was not easy to accumulate 3 million fans, and now there were none. The money invested in the early stage had not been earned back yet, and the account was gone. No. No. She would file a complaint. She did not violate the rules. She hurriedly dialed Douyin's official number. "Hello, Douyin, at your service. May I help you?" The call went through and a very pleasant voice sounded from the other end. Lee Haeyin said, "I'm Lee Haeyin, my Douyin ID is Haeyin. Why is my account frozen? The videos were all taken down. Do you know how much loss this will bring me? Hurry up and recover them." As soon as she opened her mouth, it was like a barrage of cannonballs that bombarded wildly. The female customer service officer frowned slightly. She really disliked people like her who had no manners. The female customer service officer took a deep breath and suppressed the unhappiness in her heart. Then her hands moved quickly on the keyboard. Soon she found information about Haeyin. There was only a single line of comments on it: violated relevant regulations, permanently frozen, Zhang Daming. Seeing this, the female customer service officer's pupils constricted. Who was Zhang Daming? The chairman of Douyin. He had personally banned this account, let alone a small streamer with 3 million fans. Even those big streamers with tens of millions of fans would definitely remain banned. In addition, the other party was personally banned by the chairman. It was very likely that she had offended the chairman. At the thought of this, the female customer service officer's voice became much colder. "Sorry, your account has violated the relevant regulations and has been permanently frozen. Goodbye." After saying that, she hung up. Hey. Lee Haeyin did not expect the customer service officer to hang up the phone directly. After a while, all she got was a hurried, busy tone. "How dare you hang up on me?" Then she dialed Douyin's official number again. This time, it was a male customer service officer. When he saw Haeyin's account, his attitude was not much different from the female customer service officer. He only said that she had gone against the rules and hung up. Lee Haeyin was even angrier after being hung up several times in a row. "Aren't you going to unban me?" she asked sternly. "Fine, I'll register a new account and post all these things." Hence she quickly registered. However, when she logged in, a video popped up. If it was a normal video, it would have been fine. Lee Haeyin would definitely choose to close it. However, this video was of her. "Miss, you seem to have forgotten to pay the bill just now." "The bill? Are you blind? Do you know who I am? I'm the food streamer Haeyin. I have more than 3 million fans on Douyin. I ate in your restaurant and live streamed it. How much traffic will this bring you? I haven't even asked you for money yet. How dare you ask me to pay?" Now everything has to be settled according to the normal rules. "I charge 200,000 yuan for a restaurant visit. You just need to pay me 200,000 yuan. Ah, my stomach. I just ate 18 delicacies, steak and lobster from Time Restaurant. Why does it suddenly hurt so much?" Below the video, there were already close to 100,000 comments. "Charam, I think she's very suitable to play the villain. FIL, this is Haeyin, this flat-faced woman. Heavens, she looks very different in her own videos. Ordinary person, she didn't pay for the meal and even demanded a visit fee. 200,000, pa. Dragon King, yes. Junjai Zian, she's too good at acting. Masked Man, no wonder she was banned, she deserved it." Seeing this, Lee Haeyin's eyes widened completely, and thin beads of sweat covered her forehead. Someone had actually taken a video of her. Moreover, so many people had seen it. So many comments. It was over. Then Lee Haeyin seemed to have thought of something. Her gaze landed on Lin Fan. Just now, it seemed like Lin Fan had made a phone call and said that he wanted to ban her and promote a video. Then she was banned. In the blink of an eye, this video was commented on by tens of thousands of people. It was him. It was him. It was him. Lee Haeyin's heart trembled. Just a phone call was enough to do this. Who exactly was he? Lee Haeyin cried, Mr. Lin, I'm sorry, it was my fault just now." As she spoke, she seemed to want to hug Lin Fan's arm. However, Lin Fan glared at her and said, "Don't come near me." This glance scared Lee Haeyin so much that her heart trembled again, and she immediately stopped in her tracks. Lin Fan continued, "You should pay the price for your actions." "Mr. Lin, I was really wrong, please spare me," Lee Haeyin hurriedly said. Lin Fan seemed to be annoyed by her voice and said coldly, "Leave now. Otherwise, I guarantee that the punishment just now is only the beginning." When Li Heiyan heard this, her heart inexplicably tightened. She opened her mouth but did not dare to say anything else. She was afraid. She was afraid that if she continued to say anything, there would be terrible consequences. The other party definitely had the ability to make things hard for her. At this moment, there was the sound of footsteps at the door. Two women of medium build were on their phones as they walked in. When one of the women saw Li Heiyan, she could not help but say in surprise, "Look, is that Heiyan?" The woman next to her said, "This flat-faced woman, yes, it's Heiyan. After doing such a shameless thing, why is she still in Time Restaurant?" Yeah. As they talked, they turned on their cameras one after another. While they were talking, another person walked in. They said similar things and pointed at Li Heiyang. Li Heiyan's face turned red when she heard what everyone said. She lowered her head, no longer in the mood to stay. Eh? To Lin Fan, Li Heiyan's matter was just a small matter. He wanted to be left alone. Under the arrangement of the manager, Zhang Shui, Lin Fan went to a luxurious private room and had a sumptuous lunch. Originally, Zhang Shui wanted to report the situation at Time Restaurant. However, Lin Fan stopped him. He said that things would be the same as before and that the restaurant would just operate normally. After eating his fill, Lin Fan drove the Cullinan on the wide road. In front of a red light, Lin Fan's phone vibrated. 12:00 p.m. The red packets were here. Taking advantage of his free time, Lin Fan quickly clicked on them. Ding, congratulations, you've received 1 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 9,999 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 88 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 1 billion Sharkstream coins. Ding, congratulations, you've obtained 10% of the shares of Starbucks Coffee. This time, Lin Fan received a total of 48,991 yuan, 1 billion Sharkstream coins, and 10% of the shares of Starbucks Coffee. The market value of Starbucks Coffee was close to 800 billion yuan. 10% of the shares meant that Lin Fan had received 80 billion yuan. To Lin Fan, money was just a string of numbers. However, he still nodded in satisfaction and said, "Finally, it's not all cash." As he spoke, he was about to put down his phone. But at that moment, Lin Fan accidentally tapped the Dai Dai app. In almost a second, he had accepted an order. "I think you should take a look at." Just as Lin Fan was about to cancel the order, the Cullinan's car door was opened. A woman in a white short skirt with a voluptuous figure and an exquisite face slowly got in. "This car is so big," the woman praised. Obviously, she was the passenger who had placed the order. Lin Fan looked at the destination. It was not far, only about 10 kilometers away. In addition, he had nothing to do now, so he would just treat it as a casual drive. Hence, Lin Fan did not cancel the order and did not ask the woman to go down. He stepped on the accelerator and the car sped forward like a beast. The woman looked out the window at the rapidly disappearing buildings and praised again, "So fast." Then she did not forget to look around the car. "What kind of car is this, a BMW?" the woman asked. Before Lin Fan could reply, the woman exclaimed, "The starry sky, this is a Rolls-Royce." Then her beautiful eyes, which were as bright as the stars, looked at Lin Fan. With one look, the woman's beautiful eyes lit up even more. He had well-defined facial features and strong arms. He was so handsome. Perhaps it was because she was in the car, but the woman's face turned red and her heart beat faster. After a while the woman said, "Hey, what do you think of me?" As she spoke, she deliberately straightened her body as if she wanted to free her chest from the shackles of her clothes. Then the woman introduced herself. "My name is Su Wen. I'm 20 years old this year. I'm 165 centimeters tall, I weigh 45 kg and my measurements are 88, 61 and 89. Can I add you on WeChat?" Sitting in the driver's seat, Lin Fan almost choked on his own saliva. What the hell? Did women have to introduce themselves like this before asking to be added on WeChat? This woman even reported her measurements. Lin Fan stepped on the brakes and stopped the car. "We're here, also I have a girlfriend." When Su Wen heard this, she lowered her head and slowly walked out. As soon as she got out of the car, a determined look appeared on her face. We can still add each other on WeChat first. However, what responded to her was the roar of the engine, which sounded like a beast. The Cullinan galloped off into the distance. Seeing this, Su Wen looked at the tail lights of the car from afar and said regretfully, "I should have said that earlier." Eh? That was just a small interlude. Lin Fan drove the Cullinan to Feiyang Building, ready to hang out with Chu Yunyu. Unfortunately, Chu Yunyu was out of town today. Hence Lin Fan quickly returned downstairs. He accidentally saw Starbucks on the first floor and muttered, "I'll go in and rest for a while. I'll try the taste of the coffee too." After all, he was now one of the owners of Starbucks. As soon as he walked in, Lin Fan nodded his head in approval even though he had not drunk his coffee yet. Not to mention the taste of the coffee, just the decorations and the atmosphere inside were enough to attract people. After drinking a mouthful of coffee, Lin Fan muttered, "The taste is rather ordinary." He looked at the endless stream of people in the shop and said, "Is it mostly because of the interior?" There were people reading books, people using computers to study, and people whispering. Lin Fan did not bring his books or laptop and did not have any acquaintances to chat with. Therefore, he took out his phone and prepared to play with it. At this moment, he happened to see the Sharkstream app. Without much hesitation, he clicked on it. After all, he had just obtained 1 billion Sharkstream coins not too long ago. He could just leave someone a tip. Lin Fan's gaze quickly landed on Xiang's live stream. At that time, his roommate Zheng Jinbao liked Xiang very much. Later on, he tipped her a few times. At this moment, Xiang was singing Encounter in the live broadcast room. I look forward to it, but the future can't be arranged because of this. Coincidentally, Lin Fan still remembered the first time he watched Xiang's live broadcast. She was also singing this song. However, at that time, the live broadcast room was not popular at all. Now, Xiang had become a big streamer who had defeated the top 3 streamers of Sharkstream. However, this did not make her arrogant. Her singing was still as serious and pleasant as ever. Lin Fan could not help but nod his head. At this moment, Xiang, who was originally singing seriously, suddenly opened her mouth wide. That was because a dazzling golden notification had appeared in the live broadcast room. "Welcome to the live broadcast room, Work Slayer."